My name is Jill Coil, and welcome to another episode of No One Dies from Divorce, where we talk the nitty, gritty, shitty aspects of divorce and help each other come through this not only surviving, but thriving. I'm a divorce attorney, and I'm interviewing other experts and people just like you who are going through or have been through a divorce, so you can have the latest and greatest information on all things before, during, and after divorce. Let's dive in. All right, welcome today to another podcast, No One Dies from Divorce. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today and with my special guest, Gabrielle Hartley. She is hailing all the way from Massachusetts. And even though we've never met in person, she is like my spirit sister, and we were meant to be friends. And so I'm just excited and delighted that you're here on my show today, Gabrielle. Say hi to our audience.
I am so excited to be here with you as well, Jill, of course.
Oh my gosh. Gabrielle, if you don't know who this person is and you are thinking about going through or have been through a divorce, she has written just an amazing book called Better Apart, The Radically Positive Way to Separate. And Gabrielle, she's not only an attorney, but she's a mediator, a consultant, a speaker. She's also this author of this amazing book. She's just done some amazing things in her career as an attorney, as a mediator. And most recently, Gabrielle, you have been appointed to the mediation committee of the American Bar Association. Is that correct?
It's the mediation section, of the ABA. I'll be taking that position together with two other people starting this fall. So I'm very excited about that.
That's exciting. Yes. I always laugh because on those volunteer positions, I'm like, how do you have time to do this? I love giving back to the community, and and somebody has to do it because our ABA kind of runs our ability to be good lawyers. And so...
Right. And I feel like I feel very committed to bringing more credibility to the world of mediation, actually. And so I'm very passionate about mediation. And so that's why I've decided to take on this volunteer responsibility, which I'm excited about. There's a lot of great people there.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a divorce attorney, at least in the state of Utah, mediation is a requirement before you can even go to trial. So, there's a lot of talk about collaborative law and then mediation. And what most people don't recognize is that most divorce has to go in that direction, at least before you can really hash it out in court. And so tell me a little bit about your journey about going from a litigation attorney, being, that attorney that kind of defends one side on a divorce, but understanding the importance of mediation and wanting to move your practice more into that direction.
Sure. So my story sort of goes back. I'll take us there quickly. When I grew up, my parents divorced, and when I was 9 and my brother was 6. And they had shared custody way back before that was even a thing. And they were kind of bragging about what great divorce people they were and functional they were. And we were the weird family that got along. And I actually did not think that they had done such a great job. There was plenty of fighting. There was plenty of nonsense, even though there was before, right? And when I got to law school, I was kind of over the whole idea of family law, although it was required in my law school in Brooklyn. And I use that as my one pass-fail option, which I think that's funny, right? Since my whole life. Right.
Which the listeners should know that she went to law school at Cornell. So No.
I went to undergrad at Cornell.
Brooklyn Law School. Yes. No, but it's still such a great, diverse school, and what you are, I love it. So keep going, okay?
So I shortly after law school, I started to work. I got this job offer to work for a judge in the New York State Supreme Court it's called the matrimonial part. We call it MAX.
Yes.
And I was really thrown in there. I was like just about 30, and for a period of time, a little over a year, the judge I worked for and I were the only judge and court attorney sitting in the hearing every divorce in the entire borough of Staten Island.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was a lot. And my job was to help bring people to resolution as amicably or as quickly, but without, any pressure as possible. And so, it just kind of couldn't believe how ugly divorces were. Because in my mind, my parents' divorce was like bad, right? But I had no idea what bad was.
Right.
I got to court, right? So, I met my now husband, and we got engaged. I moved away, and I said, well, I guess I'll move in a law and mediation firm. When you're a lawyer, as Jill, I'm sure you're well aware, like lawyers kind of like look askance a lot of mediators, like they're like not real lawyers, right?
Or you kind of feel like you have to choose a path, either or. You're either a mediator or an attorney.
Yeah, and so doing the law thing, I kept my feet there because I sort of felt like I wouldn't be as respected, or I didn't respect myself as much. But yet, every time I would go to court, even though it's fun advocating, and I really enjoyed prepping for cross exams and going through all the garbage that you have to go through and empowering people who are really disempowered, the way that the strategy goes in order to bring your case forward really just did not resonate for me often.
Right.
And so then I just decided that I wanted to devote my energy toward changing the divorce conversation and, move things into a more positive space and let people know that they could move through and beyond their divorce in a positive way. And so I wrote Better Apart, and I created the Better Apart method, and I empower and inspire and teach lawyers who are burnt out, litigators to become mediators and, have a totally positive practice. And now I'm starting to roll out a flat rate mediation firm so that people can have an easier, less protracted divorce at their fingertips. So I'm very committed to helping to not create further collateral damage.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And that's why me and Gabrielle, I think, get along so well, because there's a lot of, I guess, stigma within the family law community of attorneys that we're money hungry and all we want to do is increase litigation for our gain, and that we don't really care about our clients. And I remember thinking early in my career, I didn't want to be that attorney. I had the exact goal to empower and help my clients through one of the hardest times. And sometimes you have to litigate, but it was under an understanding that we were litigating for fairness, for wholeness, and that at the end of the day, nobody wins in divorce. And so I love that about you, because that's exactly kind of your underlying mantra, is that you can go to litigation, you can go to trial, you're going to spend a lot of money, but at the end of the day, you're not going to feel whole. You're not going to feel like you succeeded. Nobody wins in divorce. And so you've created this method of, hey, there's another way. And sometimes it's the better way.
Something like, because I come from a place and space in my own mind of equanimity. I'm always sort of looking at both sides. That's just the way my brain works. And so when I was a baby lawyer, I found that sometimes I get on the defensive, right?
Yeah.
Like really, there's a reason that they have that expression, the best defense is a strong offense.
Right, right.
And sort of like, I learned how to be a really good litigator, and I did not like it. I did not, even though I was good at it, and it just wasn't resonant at all for me. And so I think if you have to go to court, for your listeners, if you have to litigate, then just go for it, because sometimes you're married to somebody who will not let you do it any other way.
Right.
And if that's the case, absolutely lawyer up. There is a reason for court. I go counsel to one of the most progressive law firms in Manhattan for that reason. There's a lot of people who reach out to me and they say, Gabrielle, I really want to mediate with you. I love your book. I love your work, blah, blah, blah. And then I say, let's tell me a little bit about your case. And, I hear about the scoundrel they're married to.
Right.
You can't so I'm sorry.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
Right. And so through that process and you experiencing that, is that what led you to want to develop a better way? And I love it because you named your book Better Apart. And so.
Yeah, the thing that occurred to me, Jill, was that like day after day, how you sit at that same desk in your conference space, and like I was sitting there, and there'd be like one client after another, and like the people who I would reach, I would be able to sort of give a lot of these tips and tricks to, but like I felt like I wanted to reach to more people.
Yes.
Let people know they could be okay and give them the tools. And Better Apart is actually it's a mindfulness book. It gives you a lot of like mantras and like all these woo-woo things, and I don't know, still things are crazy, right? Like writing exercises, and there's a yoga component, which I actually reached out to a dear friend of mine who I went to Cornell with, Elena Brower, and she shares her personal stories as well as lending yoga poses to go along with each of the 5 tenets of the Better Apart method.
Right. This book is more than just, hey, I'm thinking about divorce and I just want to read about it. I mean, so one of the things when I'm reading is I need value out of the book, right? So I don't want you to just tell me stories or tell me what I should be doing. I want you to actually show me tools and keys to be able to do what you are telling me I should do to get through whatever or to learn whatever. And so that's what I found about your book that I loved, is that it's actual real life tools. And when I wrote my book, No One Dies from Divorce, as you know, you were amazing and endorsed it, wrote a review for it. But I really wanted people not only to just read it, but I wanted actual advice to give them tools and keys to get through whatever they were getting through. And so that's what I love about your book. And I want to share a couple things in the book that I love. So, because this isn't a book, like Gabrielle said, like this is a to-do book. Like if you're going to have to put in some work, right?
Right. Absolutely. And we all have work to do.
Right.
And so there's like no way around it. If you want to feel better, you got to do the work.
And I love in your beginning, you say shifting your state of being will take intention and effort. This process demands discernment, efficiency, and willingness. And I just was like, okay, right there, you're doing your call of action and you're saying for this to work, your method to work, you're going to actually have to put in some work. And then I love how you talk about the tools in this book are designed to be accessible and highly efficacious for all of us. And then you end with, even if you find yourself in a state of confusion, anger, or sadness right now, you are the precipice of a metamorphosis. What did you mean when you said that?
And so I meant that even if your mind is still, it is full of chaos, like the sense of equanimity is like so far away from where you are sitting, you are perfectly positioned to create change like a caterpillar into a butterfly, metamorphosis. You're going to become something else. What you are in this present moment, if you should engage mentally, spiritually, emotionally in recognizing that this is the first moment of the rest of your life and engage in these practices, you can become something else, something better. You
yes.
can actually rebirth yourself. So I want everyone who's getting divorced to take a copy of Better Apart. I wish every lawyer would just hands it out because it's just it's a different book. Like when I wrote it, I was even thinking this is like a part of the reason I felt like I had to write this, but I'm a divorce lawyer, but it's a pretty weirdo book for divorce.
It's definitely not the norm, but it's exactly the mission of what we're trying to do is help people understand that there's more to just dotting the I's and crossing the T's in a divorce. There's so much more potential. I talk about that all the time, that you should be able to use your divorce as like, let's stop shaming the word divorce, but let's Yes, as an ability to become a better friend, a better person. I go even as wide as being a better human being. And I loved when you said this. When this process is complete, your elegance will light your family's path to higher love and courageous freedom. It's our honor to help guide you and walk with you. And you are a very eloquent writer. Like I laugh because I'm like, when I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, you're very good at writing and using eloquent words to express what you're saying. My book, I tried very, very hard. I'm not as eloquent, guess I should say.
It's awesome. Your book is so straightforward. It is so readable. It is so relatable. Your book made me cry. I mean, I loved your book.
Oh, thank you.
It's just a different language. It's a different message. Really, I think people should buy them in a bundle.
Yes, they should buy them together. I can't wait for Amazon. When everybody goes and buys my book and you do all the reviews, then they'll probably put us together. And when you Google my book, you'll get Better Apart. But I feel like if people could understand that this trial that they're going through with divorce is the best time to say, what can I do to look inward, become a better person, and I guess take that opportunity to flourish. Like you said, it's a clean slate. It's an absolutely a trial that is one of the hardest things you're going to go through. And I always say, like, you have to fall flatter on your face to be able to stand taller than you ever were. And this is the opportunity to do that. And so when we're talking about that, divorce doesn't have to be this thing that knocks you down or knocks the air out of you that you're never going to be able to recover from. It actually can be that event to I guess put that fire in your eye to say, okay, what do I need to do to move forward? And one of the things that we have to say is sometimes it's just, if you can't take it day by day, take it minute by minute. And I talk about in my book about breathing, the importance of breath. So you talking about yoga, I don't think is out of this world either. It's all about being able to become mindfulness, to look inward, and then to recreate, who do you want to be? What do you want to be? And so that's what your book does.
And one thing that I think, like a little tip or trick that I love, like just in regular life, is like everyone should have a personal mantra, right? Like whatever you struggle, like I can be react, right? So like my mantra is like, I am radiantly, right? And so I tell myself I am radiantly calm all the time because I'm not calm. What does is when somebody says something, my husband or one of my kids or my mother or whoever has the ability to get me rattled, those closest to us, I think to myself, I am radiantly calm. Now, just thinking that, first of all, I'm telling myself those words. Second of all, I just bought myself 10 seconds of like air.
Yes.
Now, when I respond, I might not respond perfectly. You're still you, but I'm going to be a little bit better because I will have created pause and I would have fed myself a positive message. But the reason that you need to do this mindfully every day is because if you are not in the habit of giving this message to yourself, it is less likely to be accessible to you when you are in a heated state.
Yes. That's funny you talk about mantra, because I believe my mantra is know the why. Like, I truly believe if you make your passion your purpose, then it will eventually become your profession. And that's what I live. And so if you don't know the why, if you don't know your purpose, then it's going to be hard for you to understand the trajectory of where you should go. So anyways, I love that.
That's right. It's actually, that is tangential, but that's actually part of the whole thing. Like, I'm really into, getting clarity, getting away from the brain, getting into becoming an actualizing visionary.
Yeah.
That's why clarity is like my favorite section of the book.
Yes. I was going to say, so you wrote this book because you saw that there was some challenges in divorce that you really wanted to help with. So what are some challenges in your experience that you have seen with divorce that you want to be part of the movement to change?
So yeah, I always say I want to be the glorious Simon of divorce.
Yes.
The challenges. Of course, the number one challenge is that we live thinking it in the shadows, as you already mentioned, shame and stigma. and releasing that, right? And like when I say release, that goes to forgiveness, right? That goes to forgiving yourself for being here, forgive yourself for the perception of what you're now not giving your children, and opening yourself up to what the new life you're going to give your children.
Right.
Involved in chaos before. So self-forgiveness is a really big theme. Clarity, getting away from the blame, getting into becoming your why.
Yes.
Figuring out how to be wholehearted in your feet, your body, in your mind, in your heart. And then also something that's super important is getting to be more patient. Right?
Yes.
Because there's so many annoying people and circumstances and laws.
Mm-hmm.
Here with your peace of mind, I'm sure you've had lots of cases, Jill, where, the mom has always been the full-time custodial parent, and she doesn't understand, like, why do I have to go to court? Like, I am the custodial parent. What are they talking about?
Right.
And
Right.
to explain that there's some things called due process, and while they may or may not agree with it, that is the law. So, really, I'd say if I had to give one piece of advice, I would say that taking a step back is the best and only way forward.
Right. Right. And I always say, along with that, one of the challenges that I see with people in divorce is that they don't believe they're worthy. I see men all the time that say, I'm not worthy of my kids' time, that I should just give up custody because of this. And then I have women who, have been primarily the stay-at-home moms, maybe don't have confidence in their ability to work or take care of themselves. And they don't find that they're worthy of opportunity, of growth, of becoming a person that they maybe don't even know is in there. And so I always say, like, my movement that I want is to help people recognize that you're worthy, that you are worthy of this. And what is it? And so it goes right along with some of those challenges that you talked about what people are thinking through divorce. And you're right. There are some times where you're just going to have to go to court. There,
yeah. Sometimes that's why, like, even on, I know I told you that I'm going to have this, all flat rate divorce. I have a button that says, you're not sure if mediation is for you. Just call me. Like, let's talk about it.
Right.
Because sometimes it just might not be for you. And what you just said is not going to go to jail. There's a lot of women, especially, who may have stayed at home for a long time, and they feel that they're not worthy to receive their share of the pension.
Right.
And they say they don't want to see themselves as greedy.
Right.
I'm not greedy. I'm a good person. How many times have you said that?
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly right. And like, that's why, it's important to understand the laws, but also have an advocate at least talking to you so you understand at least your roles and your obligations, your rights. In your divorce. I mean, I always say that even if you don't need to hire an attorney, advise with an attorney so you know what you need to do to protect yourself, your family, your future. And that's why doing a process, if you don't feel like you need a litigation attorney, you don't need to go through courts. Doing something with like what Gabrielle Hartley's doing, because she is an attorney. She can advise you to the rights and she can then help you navigate to do this amicable, mediated, collaborative divorce. But at least at the end of the day, okay, I know that what I did was at least protecting myself, my family, and my future.
And actually, I mediate for people all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really am very, very adamant that everyone who works with me has a lawyer who they consult, because I don't know the law outside of Massachusetts and New York, and my mediators aren't even necessarily all lawyers.
Right.
So it's just really important. If anyone is listening right now, thinking about going to mediation, whether you're using a better apart lawyer or me or some lawyer in your town or somebody else you've heard of, you have to know what your rights are, because you can walk away from things, but you need to know what you're walking away from before you do it. You need to go and speak with a You can be a litigation attorney who knows that you're committed to mediation. It doesn't matter. As long as you're strong-minded and you're not going to let them pull you
Right.
into mediation. You need to know what your range of outcomes is. Because when you know your range, then you can decide, okay, I care about this, I don't care about that. You do not want to be Monday morning quarterbacking after you sign that agreement that you cannot undo.
Yes,
So
that's absolutely right.
important.
And a lot of times, if you go into mediation too early as well, without, understanding what you should know going into mediation, the mediation's not going to be successful anyways. For instance, you should always go into mediation understanding your full financial picture of your marriage. And a lot of times one side doesn't have that full picture. So, you have to be able to ask the right questions or know where to go so that you can go into mediation and say, here's our financial outlook, and you can then better mediate it and work on that.
So actually, Jill, so what you're saying, that's absolutely true. If you want to go quicker, that's great. There are a lot of people who are not comfortable or they don't even know where to get started. And what I'd say is, like, I often see people where at least one person doesn't know their financial picture, but another rule, I've got a lot of rules. You make no agreements in the first section unless there's been full financial disclosure. No agreements. We just talk about the process. That's it.
So they can understand and
understand about parenting. What is co-parenting? What works? What doesn't? What may impact something else? What kind of schedules are there? How can the finances be distributed? There's a lot of education that can happen in the first mediation section. But here's a word of caution to anyone mediating. If you do not know the full financial picture, do not make comments like, oh, that sounds good, or I think that'll work, until you talk to your lawyer. Because if you agree to something, what happens is the other person will do what's called anchoring.
Right.
They'll attach to that position. Then you're going to have a really hard time renegotiating. Where, from your point of view, you were just talking, you weren't making agreements, so you have to be really careful about that in mediation.
Yeah, absolutely. And why do you feel like I said, I go to mediation in every one of our cases. Like, even if they're litigation, we settle about 80% of all of our cases in mediation. And a lot of times we settle it in that first mediation because they've had an attorney to do the whole entire discovery process prior to going in. So mediation in this aspect is very, very a positive thing, and it works very, very well. One of the things that caught my attention when you said is that your first session is a lot of times just talking about the process. What I found is that if we go to mediation too early, a lot of people are too early in the grief cycle. So they're still maybe in the denial stage or the anger stage, which hinders our ability to settle. And so sometimes helping people through the emotional part to get through the denial part first is really, really important. Have you seen that in your line of work? Kind of having to accept the fact that divorce is happening and now I have to make big grown-up decisions?
Of course, yeah, of course. So there, and that happens, but it tends to move along fairly quickly. I think most of my messaging is like letting people know, like, we're going to, it's not going to be a smooth train unless you really need it to be. Sometimes, slow is the fastest.
Yeah.
There's that expression for a reason. But, something that you can talk about, like, I don't actually think that there is such a thing as too early to start mediation, just in terms of figuring things out, like, is mediation right for me? Again, don't talk about what the house is worth, because you're not even there. Like, talk about concepts of what is fair. I can't tell you how many times people come in, everybody says, I just want to be fair. So I start with my mediation sessions talking about, I am sure you both want to be fair, and I'm also pretty sure that we each think is fair is different from what the person thinks is fair.
Right.
So that's okay, but let's not judge each other's perceptions unfair, because identify early facts. I might have a third perception that's fair, right? So we talk a lot about these kinds of high-level topics. We talk about, we do a lot of breakouts. What do you think you want? Why? What are the things that make you want that? We have conversations that take the conversation from the positional to interesting.
Yeah. I actually see a big difference, though, between your collaborative mediation, where somebody feels confident being able to go in with their spouse and be able to open this communication field, to my kind of mediation, where we are, there's usually two attorneys and we're in separate rooms, and it's like, where are we going to start our negotiation point at? And we have to,
mediation.
yeah.
Attorney-assisted mediation is a whole different thing. I actually love attorney-assisted mediation. That's what I did.
Right.
I was trained with, and it was like crazy. It was like Brooklyn and Staten Island, like really intense, like ready to rumble, like court officer right outside the door oftentimes. I can tell you some crazy stories on another podcast. Maybe I can't. I'm protected.
Right.
But I 100% agree with you. Attorney-assisted mediation, when you're coming to me, you're like kind of done with food work. You want to wrap it up. You're sick of the fighting. Everyone kind of knows what's there. You've been yelled at by the judge to, get all your stuff together. And we are going to wrap it up in probably 2 or 3 hours most of the time. We usually would do, an hour, like say a half hour together, an hour separate from each party, and then another half hour together to wrap it up.
Right.
Something like that. And I wouldn't be evaluative in that perspective. And in that way, I don't know if you have your mediators or evaluative telling you what to do, or they're more holding you into the process.
That's interesting. I pick my mediators based off of my client and what I need from them. So I have my relationships with my mediators, and we kind of pick and choose. But that's what I love about what you're doing, because collaborative law, if everybody that's listening and doesn't understand what that is a big push in the nation to really kind of have this 2-tier track. So if you're not just heading straight to litigation, you're able to do more of this collaborative, based mediation. And Utah doesn't necessarily have a collaborative track yet, but I know we're moving toward there. And with the nation having almost 50% of all marriages ending in divorce, it's absolutely needed, because not every case is going to need to drag out or be hard pressed in court. The average divorce age for marriages is 7 years. And so a lot of times those divorces are a little bit easier. They don't have many, assets. They maybe have a kid, maybe don't. And so those divorces seem to be, but, when you have your 30-year marriage and you have lots of assets, there might be different things. So I definitely agree with this path of being able to choose, but doing it correctly. And what you're doing, Gabrielle, is absolutely that direction, because it's giving, it's giving these people that don't need maybe that outright litigious or don't need to spend that money an option to do it correctly. Because one of the things that I see a lot in my divorces is when they come to my firm, I fix a lot of bad homemade decrees.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, when I used to work for the judge, I can't tell you how many people said, the parties believe they can amicably work out the parenting or whatever, the custody agreement, whatever they called it. And I was like, no. Nobody can reasonably do anything. You can do whatever you want. There's no custody police out there unless you're defined.
Right.
But you need an agreement with terms. So every single one of my divorce mediations ends with a very detailed memorandum of understanding. And then they bring that back to their lawyer,
who writes it up.
The separation agreement.
Yes.
But there is nothing that is left out.
Right.
Like the details of exactly what portion of the pension goes in. Even that is like from this date to that. Like everything is there. It is not like some loosey-goosey thing. Nothing wastes the court's time more than a poorly drafted separation agreement.
Right.
So I like the whole idea of hard nap.
Yes, and that's exactly right. Because I was thinking of a story, like I had a decree I had to fix where they had decided to do parent time, where they traded the children every day, every other day. Every day. So the children were going back every day. And, the kids get a little bit older and they come to me and they're like, this is not working. My kids hate this. And then, and then they can't get along or agree. And we're like having to go back into this full litigation of a modification to like fix it. And this kind of leads into like one of the as me and you are kind of pioneers in this, how can we change divorce for the better? That's why I've created my company, simpleending.com. And I've told you a lot about that, because what I was seeing is that these online homemade, decrees, we're basically checking the box and then letting these people do like all of whatever they basically wanted. And they were just horrible decrees that nobody could follow. And the sad part is the court couldn't even enforce it because the language was so...
That's the problem. Like, I'm a big believer in people can agree to whatever they want. Like, I don't know if you know this, Jill, but I grew up changing houses every day. And
did you?
Yeah, I did. I actually thought it was fabulous.
Did they live across the street from each other?
They did for the first 4 years, but then they were kind of far, but it was fine because it just was. Like, my brother refers to our childhood as our commute. I think it was too much for him. For me, it was absolutely fine. And my parents actually brought me to a therapist with them to tell them what I wanted.
Interesting. Okay.
And let me tell you why I liked it. Just to have this in your mind for another case someday. Whoever woke me up, the other parent tucked me in.
Oh.
5 years old, I cared about them.
I love that.
So and the weekends, I did like Friday till Sunday.
Right.
Every weekend. But the point is, my parents each had really excellent attorneys who wrote the agreement up very detailed.
Right.
That is what matters, is you can agree to anything you want, but you need to both be clear about it, and you have to have a process if things don't work out, as in Jill's case, where it sounds like it was a big mess at a certain point. There needs to be a process so the whole thing doesn't blow.
I love it. And that's exactly right. And that's why my decrees that are being designed through this technology with simpleending.com give you attorney quality decrees that are going to give you defined parenting plans, defined, parameters so that they're enforceable in court and they're easy to understand. And that's
amazing, Jill.
That was just one of my goals, is I wanted to make sure that if you can't afford a big, expensive attorney, some people don't even need the big, expensive attorney, but they need a quality divorce decree. And I set out with this mission of how can I fix that? And I hired engineers that we came up with this technology that is really going to be impactful to, expand access to justice to all. And I'm really excited about that, because I think about it and I'm like, Gabrielle, you'll be perfect because you mediate it. And then they go back in and they put it into simpleending.com, and it's the underlying, and they spend a fraction of the cost. So
exactly. And they can get whatever package they need based on, is it like a quick kind of easy thing where they just need 2 sessions or so, or is
right,
or do it's more complicated?
Right. And that's what we're doing. Like, we're pioneers in this. Like, your book, Better Apart, I felt like that's exactly what it's trying to do, is empower people through divorce to understand that divorce isn't the end. And I loved your chapter because, this is funny because I wrote my book before we met, and you, one of your chapters is you wanted to talk about, like, should I divorce, or are you sure you need the divorce? Yes. And I loved that chapter because I was like, yes, sometimes people are in a marriage and they're like, oh, if I get divorced, everything will, and I'm like, no, it's not always greener on the other side. And so we need to be going through these questions because you need to really understand what's going on in your marriage. And I'll share my personal story a little bit that you read in my book is, when my husband and I, before he decided to leave me, but we were going to marriage counseling. And I remember going into marriage counseling thinking, I'm so happy to be here because this marriage counselor is going to be like, tell my husband all the things he's doing wrong. And I was so excited because I was like, finally, I'm going to get a little vindication for this, right? And what I ended up realizing through the sessions is that the therapist was looking at me saying, Jill, you're lacking in your self-worth and your what you feel you're worthy of. And because of that, you're setting expectations so high for your husband, you'll never be happy. Like, because you don't even know what you need yourself. And I was like, what? So I really had to change my perspective in what I needed to be happy. And when I took my husband out of the equation and I was able to become a whole person and find happiness within, I recognized that my husband was just going to elevate that. He wasn't going to be the one to drag me up to happiness. And so I share that story because that's exactly what a lot of people don't realize in divorce is they're looking for their spouse to be happy, or they've got this crack and they're looking for their spouse to just be the one to fill in that crack. And what they're realizing is that's not going to happen. So I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh, Jill, I mean, that's like, I have a very similar story. Like when the beginning of my marriage, I was just so angry at my husband all the time because he was sort of having his career and doing everything he wanted. I had my law practice, but I wasn't like manifesting. I wasn't really living all the way. And, you know, it's kind of like leaving felt like an option, but it didn't feel like the solution.
Right.
And so I decided that I was going to I was just going to do what I wanted to do from within the context of my marriage. I could always get divorced, but like,
right.
Just do what I want to do. And that's when I can have the courage, my friend, to write better for it. And, you know, when I happen to so many people, I didn't really have the courage to stop litigating. Even though where I live, there's a lot of lawyer mediators. That's very common here, and in New York City as well. I didn't take down the litigation shingle, if you will, until literally I had Gwyneth Paltrow's endorsement on the cover. And
everybody, it's right there. It's right there.
I was really timid in a certain way, even though I don't think anybody who would meet Jill or me would call us timid. There was
right.
part of us, and there's obviously a reason that we like empowering other women, right?
Right.
Because we needed self-empowerment. I mean, I could have saved myself so much grief if I hadn't been waiting for my husband to say, go to yoga, go do this, go do that. Like, I did always make time for myself to do like girls' weekends, but I just didn't do my career as much as I wanted to.
Right.
And it was like when I gave myself permission, I was happier. And then even though I don't even know, did anything change? Did our communication get better? Maybe, maybe not. But I was happier, so I didn't care as much.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Right.
That's exactly what it is. And when you feel more fulfilled, you're able to then elevate it. And people around you see that. And they sometimes want to match that. And I felt like that's what happened in my marriage is when I didn't care so much about the fact that he threw his socks on the ground. I tell that story a lot.
Oh, really? We're going to talk about how you separated that.
Oh, I'll tell you all day. What I decided was because my therapist literally told me she was like, you can divorce your husband over socks, or you can stop giving a damn. And I just realized, I was like, you're right. Like, if I want to divorce my husband over socks, I have that choice, just like you said, or I can just stop caring about the socks. And it changed my life. He still throws his damn socks on the ground. And sometimes I catch myself looking at him like, oh my gosh, just you're a 39-year-old grown ass man, like pick up your socks. But now I realize, I'm like, that's not the defining measure of my happiness.
Right.
And so I'm not going to allow it.
Right. That's what and again, like now we're talking about like we're both still married at this moment.
Right.
And I'm never so smug to say anything, right?
Right. Knock on wood.
But, it may be that you make all these changes within the context of your marriage and it still doesn't work. And guess what? You're going to be at a better point when you get divorced because you will be more whole.
Yes.
Versus first trying to figure out who you are and what you want. So really, like I said in the beginning, one piece of advice is a step back, look at yourself, look at who you are in your circumstances. Pay attention to your inner narrative. Pay attention to what you're telling yourself about who you are. And see where there's space to make changes so that you feel like you're really living. Like you're no longer like looking at other people's lives, feeling like, oh,
right.
I could be doing this or that.
And when you get divorced, that's when you have an opportunity to sit back and And I mean, I always say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like when we're kids, we daydream, right? And we're always daydreaming about what we want to be. You know, I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a police officer. Or, you know, oh, I want to marry, you know, Justin Timberlake, or who did I want to marry when I was a kid? And I you know, we have just a youthful mind to think that anything's possible. And you don't ever tell yourself, like, as a 9-year-old, oh, I can't marry, you know, so-and-so. Like, it's always just this dream.
I never thought about getting
married. Really? Okay. Well,
that's maybe because my parents were
I was just going to say maybe because of your experience, but I used to.
kids. I thought I'd have a great career. I thought I'd have like life. I just never pictured the husband.
Oh my gosh. I think I dreamt about marrying Prince William because we're the same age. And so that was like a big thing. And then Matthew Lawrence, he was my guy. I used to put his, yeah. And anyway, so I'm a big daydreamer. And I remember in these hard times in my marriage, I remember thinking, man, I don't laugh anymore. I don't daydream anymore. And I recognized that was because I was stopping myself from feeling fulfillment in myself. And so, or I was looking for somebody else to fulfill. And because of that, I was dying inside. And so I tell people, look at your divorce as an opportunity to dream again and get something that gets you excited. Like, even if it's impossible, like marrying, you know, whoever, but yeah, Prince William.
I do. You know, whatever it is for you.
Yeah.
If you want to be a tap dancer, like whatever.
Yes.
You want to do, that's what I do. I mean, the total practice makeover that I do, that's like my side gig because it's so much fun because I'm giving people permission to reimagine their divorce practice.
Yes.
So, like, even though my main thing is divorcing people, I love helping people love their lives and feel alive and empowered and inspired. It's just, and that's why I wrote Better Apart. And to feel like you deserve it, and also to have the tools to start walking away from unnecessary conflict.
Yes, exactly. Because there are some absolute times where divorce is the answer, and we want to prepare you for that and make sure you walk through that and come out of it a stronger person, like you said, a butterfly. You know. So, what's your favorite chapter in the book, and why?
I mean, I think my favorite chapter is actually the pause.
Right.
One that you just said. The favorite part of the process was getting clear. I have something called the verb protocol, which is visualize, internalize, realize.
Okay.
And I love that because people don't spend enough time visualizing. They spend a lot of time blaming. But if you can start visualizing, the more you live with the daydreaming, like you just said, but like granular daydreaming. What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like? How does it feel? How does it taste? How does it smell? How are you going to get really, really, really deep into that? And that's how you make the magic happen. It's when we feel groundless when we don't have vision.
Yes. And when we get the vision or get the dream or the goal, then, and we set out our intent, then it's about action.
Right. But usually, at least in my life, having not done an empirical study, over and over, when I'm really crystal clear on what I want to happen, the actions, I mean, I can't stop doing it.
Yes.
They just happen. That's the internalizing, right? Like when you know what you want, and you know, anyone who knows Jill, she has a lot of vision. So that's why she has like 5 businesses. One of the potential, whatever she has, like she's just like non-stop, right? And I'm a little bit like that myself, maybe not Jill level up. But when you have something really clear in your mind, like go for it because it's just gonna internalize. That's the I, the verb. It's like visualize, bring it in.
Yes.
Internalize it. The internalizing is the action. And guess what happens when you take all the actions? It comes to life. It's realized.
Yes. If you don't find opportunity, create it.
Exactly.
And the first step to creating opportunity is courage.
Exactly.
And you just have to believe it. You have to believe you're worthy of it. And it will come. I absolutely, I love that. And to everybody listening, if you're going through this process and you're still struggling to know how to even start or what you should do to just get the next foot in front of the other. What advice would you give him, Gabrielle?
I mean, now there's so many books out there that you can pick up a book, go to a lawyer, get some advice. I mean, the first thing you should really do is figure out what your assets are if you can, right?
Right.
Go to a lawyer and get your advice and see what the different options are. Don't listen to your friend who had a bad experience or who had a great experience necessarily, because your situation is different from everybody else's situation. And so, I think the most important thing you do is you get really clear in that it's what you want.
Yes, that's what you want.
And if any of your listeners are going through a divorce, on my website, GabrielleHartley.com, there is a blog that comes out every week. And there are different tips and stories and financial advice and nutrition advice and all kinds of wellness for people going through divorce. Some of the guest bloggers, Jill's going to actually, I think, be giving a blog pretty soon.
Yep.
On the site. It's full of information, about litigation, about mediation, about collaborative law, all the different options, and that's another resource. And then, of course, there are podcasts like this one.
Right.
That are great. You don't need to feel alone. So I would say surround yourself with support. And if the support needs to be sort of virtual right now, the world has really broken open in a way that it wasn't even 3 years ago. So you can really find a lot of resources online, right in your fingertips, right on your phone, right on Instagram feed. Go follow me on Instagram and follow the people who I'm following. So a lot of them are inspiring.
Right. Right. And let's lead the change to recognize that divorce doesn't need to be shamed. Don't be shamed by it, but use it. Use it as an opportunity for you to grow, become a better human being. I love that. Gabrielle, what you are doing, you guys, she got Gwyneth Paltrow to endorse her book. It's so freaking amazing.
That's because I visualized it.
Yes. And you set the intent. That's what I find so much motivation in that. I'm sending so much intent out there right now for people to find my book. Because one of the things that I recognize is that I have same with you with our, yes.
Did you see this?
No. New nonfiction. Better part. That's amazing. That is so cool. Congratulations.
Conscious uncoupling how to.
Yes. That's amazing.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Anyway, we can talk about too.
No.
It has been so nice.
Gabrielle, it's been amazing. Thanks for joining us. Everybody, you heard where to go. Say your website one more time.
GabrielleHartley.com.
Right.
And we're better at
Yes, easy. Both our books are on Amazon. You can go to JillCoil.com as well. You know our community and what we have to offer. We're here for you, and we're here to help you, whether you're thinking about going through or gone through a divorce. So keep on recognizing your worth, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Gabrielle.
Thank you so much, Jill.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, follow, and share. I'd love to hear your questions and feedback. You can contact me at community@jillcoil.com. See you next time. I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney. Any advice given on the podcast is general and shall not be construed as legal advice.